people. Just look at some of the things that we've gotten done in just the last few months alone. We are producing better care for our veterans, better access to credit for small businesses, hope for the terminally ill, more tools to fight transnational gangs like MS-13, more resources to fight opioids, the biggest congressional effort of its kind in history. And today, right now, you can see the vote on the floor, the National Defense Bill to rebuild our military. Things like this, things like these, they may not make the cut against the palace intrigue or all the countdown clocks, but we are getting things done to improve people's lives. And of course, I want to encourage you. I get to do this again. I really enjoy this. I want to encourage you to go to better.gop to see that we've been making good on our promises, to see that we've been making good on executing our agenda, and as a result of our Better Way agenda getting into place, becoming law, people are better off now. So go to better.gop to learn more about all of these things. Finally, I want to take a moment of personal privilege, if you'll allow. Today is a bittersweet one for me. It is my last day with Will Miller on my staff. Many of you know Will. If you have seen me walking around here for the last 2+ years, you have seen Will Miller. He keeps me moving. He makes sure that I can do my job effectively. He's going off to business school, and I'm really happy for him because he has got a great future ahead of him. But this young man has made my life better, my speakership better. He's dependable, he's unflappable, and he just has a really nice way about him. I know many of you know him. So I just want to say to Will Miller, thank you very much for all that you've done for all of us here. Really appreciate it. And with this, I'd like to sign this bill. One of these are for you, GT. Do any of you have any questions? Manu.
Mr. Speaker, is it appropriate for your colleagues to try to impeach Rod Rosenstein? And it's also, is it appropriate for them to seek documents that are directly pertinent to an ongoing investigation, the Mueller investigation?
Well, let me step back. First of all, it is appropriate that we conduct oversight of the executive branch and that we get full compliance with the executive branch on what are very legitimate document requests. Do I support impeachment of Rod Rosenstein? No, I do not. I do not for a number of reasons. First, I don't think we should be cavalier with this process or with this term. Number one. Number two, I don't think that this rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors, a really high standard. Number three, we, since I got involved, have been getting a lot of compliance from DOJ on the document requests. We do not have full compliance, and we have to get full compliance, but we've been making tremendous progress to that point. The second reason why I think that is not the right way to go is because knowing the Senate procedures and the rules over there, this is about as privileged as anything gets over there. It's one of the most privileged things that occurs in the Senate. And if this were to pass through the House, then what it would do is tie the Senate into knots. What does that mean to us practically speaking? That means it would derail or largely delay a big part of our agenda, our appropriation bills, our infrastructure bills, and it would clearly dramatically delay the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to go to the Supreme Court, which we expect to get done by October 1st when the Supreme Court reconvenes. So for many reasons, I don't think it's the right way to go. But we do expect compliance. We want to make sure that we get compliance, and we look at all the various tools we have available, including having the kinds of dialogues we've been having recently in order to get compliance from DOJ.
Well, what about the specific documents related to the Mueller investigation?
Oh, well, so we have a process. We have a process with DOJ on that. We have a process with DOJ on the documents, and the special counsel gets involved when some documents might be in their purview and could compromise their investigation. Those documents do not come. So we have a process with DOJ to make sure that we deconflict any of these matters. Yeah.
So on that front, given what you just said, did you try to discourage your colleagues from taking this step Do you view this as a legitimate effort or as a stunt?
Look, I think they know how I feel about this. We all want to make sure that we get compliance, and different members have different beliefs on how best to go achieve those goals, but we want to make sure that we get compliance from DOJ with our document requests. We've gotten a great deal of progress on the compliance, but we do not have full compliance, and we expect to get that.
One of those colleagues of yours.
Didn't you guys want to talk about the Better Off Now? You know, I mean, did I show you this? Okay, you're okay, thanks.
One of your colleagues that brought those articles of impeachment, Jim Jordan, will announce shortly, we understand, that he's running for Speaker of the House. Has he shared those plans with you, and could you support Jim Jordan for Speaker?
I'm not going to be here. I support Kevin McCarthy. Everybody knows that, and I'm not going to be here, and he has not talked to me about that. Bonus.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday you addressed these interns and you asked them to rediscover their common humanity and treat other people with respect. Wanted to ask you, one of your colleagues in the House, Jason Lewis, there's been some reports about in his prior life before coming to Congress.
Oh, yeah.
He was a talk show
Yeah, I was
host.
wondering where you were going with this.
He
Okay.
said some very, in some people's minds, disrespectful things about women and African Americans, saying the latter had an entitlement mentality, and that women, he lamented that women couldn't be called certain words. Should he apologize for those comments?
Yeah, so, I've actually, whenever I drive around western Wisconsin, as I had in the past years, I'd turn on Minneapolis radio, and I remember Jason Lewis back in those days. He was a shock jock. That was his job at the time. I've seen some of these comments, and I obviously don't support those comments. But the Jason Lewis I know here, who's a congressman, is an extremely conscientious man, a very hardworking, a very effective member of Congress, who has been nothing but an exemplary congressman who represents his constituents well.
Would an
I'll just leave it at
apology
that.
help?
I'll leave it to him.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. When the House returns in September, they'll be just 19 days before the midterm election. How confident are you right now in election security and the U.S. government's ability to protect itself from any potential Russian interference? And do you think there needs to be more done by Congress to protect the integrity of the election?
No, I believe, the appropriations process is something that's always ongoing. I do believe we have learned a great deal more about how Russia attempts to interfere with elections and meddles in elections. We've learned a great deal more on the cyber front on that. So I think we're far better prepared today than we were just a couple of years ago on that front. Number one. Number two, we got to make sure that we have the right kind of information sharing with states, with secretaries of states, and with anybody else that could see a cyber threat from Russia, including our allies, by the way, when they have their own elections. So I think we are far better prepared for this. That is part of the reason why we have these investigations. And there's always more we can do to learn and prepare ourselves for these things, because their threats evolve, their tactics change, and we have to always be vigilant to make sure that we guard against evolving threats and tactical changes from Russia, who tries to interfere with not just our democracy, but all democracies.
Last question.
Lindsay.
You met with the president yesterday, and I understand you guys talked about government funding. Do you feel, two questions on that. One, do you feel the president is willing to push the border wall fight until after the fiscal year, so you guys can get some appropriations bills enacted into law before the deadline? And also, you had said yesterday that defense was a priority. Is there a plan for ensuring defense gets through? It seems like on the Senate side, their strategy for that is adding labor HHS. Are you guys willing to do that here?
Well, first of all, Leader McConnell and I, like we always do, had a very productive meeting. We walked the president through our strategy for appropriations before the fiscal year. He agreed with our strategy. So we think we have a unified strategy to make sure that we can get as many appropriation bills done as possible. So we think we have a very good chance, unlike a handful of years in the past, we think we have a very good chance of getting a lot of these appropriation bills done and into law before the fiscal year deadline. There will be some bills that will not pass, that won't be ready or done by then, and we'll have to have a CR to bridge us over until later on. As far as the wall is concerned, we've gotten some wall funding already underway. That is being funded, but I think it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and the president's willing to be patient to make sure that we get what we need so that we can get that done, because border security is extremely important. I would note that the position between our two parties could not be starker. We are funding the wall. We are for securing the border, and the Democrats are for abolishing ICE. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I think we have a very clear contrast on that. But we feel very good that we are on the same page and in sync with the administration and the president on getting as much appropriation bills done as possible, including funding our military on time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Don't forget.